Hi everyone, this is Dan Stone. We're just going to go through the menu system of the Teradek RT. When you first look at it, it is very overwhelming. The menu system is maybe not as straightforward as it could be, but you know, hey, that's just why we are here. We're all learning. This is my favorite display setting. You've got several different options. So right now we've got our focus range, we've got our rangefinder as well. Then if we hit display, we get the iris, and the zoom or whatever lens size you have. So if you've got a zoom, this will change as you operate it, whereas if you've just got a prime, it will just say the lens size. Then we've also got the focus and the depth of field, which obviously will shift as you change the aperture. And then finally, you've got your focus iris zoom. So if we roll through the zoom, that shifts. You also see your focus shift, and then you see your iris shift, so that's pretty nice. And then we get back to where we were. Alright, well, let's go through the menu step by step, and then we'll go through the function buttons after that. So we're just going to click menu, and then first up is lens. First option is our lens mapping. So we can either select, edit, delete, create, change the behavior, or the circle of confusion. In another video, I'll go through lens mapping on the Teradek RT. Next, we've got lens ring. This is great if you're bouncing between imperial or metric, or you're just simply jumping between lens rings. Behavior, again, this is lens ring natural or min stop. Lens slider, very much exactly like the lens ring. It's just telling the RT which lens slider you have for your iris. Then we go down to units, and this is just jumping between metric and imperial. Next in the menu, we've got rangefinder. So if you have your TOF1 in your kit, you can then enable or disable autofocus, which is great if you've got the slate coming into shot. We can also calibrate the offset. Unfortunately, it does take you back to the main menu, which is a bug that they're working on. And we can also change the auto speed, so it's just the reaction time. Next in the menu, we've got motors. We can recalibrate automatically, manually, by class, focus, iris, zoom, or by the serial number. We can also change the response. So if you want your focus motor to be fast, but maybe you want your iris motor to be a little bit slow, you can change that to be different. But I always leave it on fast because that gives me the most detail when I'm trying to do a really intense focus pull or iris pull. We can also change the class of each motor. Currently that's how I've got it set up, but if say you had more than one motor accidentally set onto the same class and you didn't want to walk over to the camera, you can manually change that over here. We can also change the serial number if for some reason you need to do that. Accuracy is a bit of a mixed bag. This is to see if the motors actually keep going back to where they should be after a calibration. That's some pretty intense stuff, so I would save that unless you really have to. And finally, torque. This applies to all the motors, and again, I always leave mine on high. Next in the menu, we've got input. We can select what each axis is on our hand unit. So we can move our focus, iris, zoom to any of these different inputs. So if we wanted, we could move the focus to the knob, the slider, joystick, X or Y, or these A and B wheels, or we could just completely turn it off. If you wanted to turn it off, this would enable you to have a second hand unit. Say if you had DIT that wanted iris control, off would be the option that you would select. Next in the menu, we can flip. So this is great if you've mounted your motors and they've calibrated and they're the wrong way round. So you can change the orientation without having to change the motors. Next, we've got recalibrate. So this is if you find any of your axes are not reaching the full potential. So infinity on the focus ring is not actually infinity on the lens. Your calibration might be off. So this is an option if you need to tell the hand unit where the actual limits of each axis are. Then we've also got reverse. So again, this does very similar to flipping the motor. It just changes the direction. Markers is for your SmallHD integration. So you can manually add markers as you go, but then you can either deep dive into the menu and select this, or you can set this to be accessed via one of your function buttons on the main screen. This allows you to add new markers. You can select current ones and edit them, or you can delete them all. But if you're not using a SmallHD monitor, I wouldn't worry about this. Next one is wireless. We can change the power of our antennas on our MDR and our control unit. Low, medium, EU max and USA max. Low is the favorite for me. This allows me to always use my Control 3 hand unit when I'm right next to the camera, because I'm always having to pick it up and work on it. Anytime I'm further away, say it's like a car rig and there's a lot of interference between us, I go up to medium, and then if it's really struggle town, then we go up to the max. Next we've got find receiver. So if you can't remember what channel your MDR is on, this is the option that you would select and it will automatically find your MDR as long as it's powered on. Otherwise, you've also got the option to select the channel. This is great if you say have more than one MDR running, say between two cameras, and you need to quickly switch from one to the other, you can manually dial this in. This is also helpful if you want to put the iris on a different MDR so that DIT can take control of this elsewhere. Next down we've got antenna. This allows you to use either built-in antenna, or if not, you can attach an external antenna. And finally we've got reset, but we're not going to touch that. Next down in the menu we've got camera. This is to select what camera you're using for your run stop cable. Next in the menu we've got limit. So this is if you want to create a digital hard stop. We'll go through this in another video. Next we've got screen. This is simply to change the brightness of the Control 3 hand unit's display. Night just dims it down quite a bit, which is quite lovely. You can also turn it off if for some reason it's too bright, but we'll just leave it on day. Next we've got buttons. So you would remember when we were on the main screen, I had the ability to select 3 functions and press and hold menu to show the other 3 functions. This is the menu to dictate which ones we want. So I've currently got it set for marks, for my focus marks, for auto on the TOF1, changing my display, going straight to lens maps, changing the axes of each motor, and then selecting all my motors. If we're going to change one, we'd go set, and then we can go through all the different options there. Next we've got RX config. This can get quite confusing. So this is if you've got your MDR.X with the in1 and in2 ports, you can select what devices are using those ports. So wide would be if you were somewhere that you could not use the wireless function of the Teradek RT. We can also go down to the iris knob or the zoom rocker, Cine tape, or we can use the Cine RT focus bug, feedback. Not sure what that is, but we'll find out. And you've also got in2 there. Next up we've got IO config. This is just to say whether you're going to use the SmallHD integration or not. When you're updating any sort of firmware on the Teradek RT system, you need to select wired, whereas any other time you're very safe to select SmallHD, and then if you've got your LEMO cable connecting to your monitor, then you'll get that metadata. And then almost at the end we've got status, that just tells us what devices are currently connected. And then we've got advanced. This just gives us some information such as any sort of firmware if you're talking to Teradek support. Good luck with them replying. Next you've got licenses. This would be for a lens mapping license, but this should come by default with the Control 3. Then we've got our LEDs. So we've got our pointer on our focus axis. We've got our backlight, which is also on the focus knob. And then we've got our status, which is the rec power button up here. So we can change the intensity of each of those. Next we've got Bluetooth. You can enable or disable this if you're having any sort of wireless issues on set, but you need Bluetooth on if you want to send lens maps to the RT app, or if you want to update the firmware of the Bluetooth module. And then finally we've got power off, debug and factory reset, but again we're going to avoid pressing those because we don't want that. So yeah, just a basic video there, nothing too fancy. As I said, I'll go through some more intense stuff in future videos, such as rangefinder calibration and lens mapping and so on. But yeah, we'll save those for another day. So thank you so much, and hope this helps. See ya.